Welcome to Conversations and Catapults. I'm your host, Nathan, and today I'm joined by visions of my 3 greatest failures. Say hello, greatest failures.
Hello, I am your greatest failure. My name is Ben.
I'm not good at anything. I don't know how to do a podcast, but I do know that my name is Sarah and I play Mira.
My nervousness and my inattentiveness to everything. Oh God. Hi, I'm Sam.
We all know that Sarah is the only one who listens to the podcast because that is my greatest failure, is not making a good one. I've never landed a podcast outro, and that is what I would be haunted by if I was like heading into a fight against Horst. Which, by the way, how is like the confidence level going in there? Like, just in terms of like
Pretty
on a mechanics
low,
level. Yeah, like
for me.
You know, we're covering a lot of episodes in this CNC, but I'm going to primarily be focusing on the most recent ones for our listeners. But I will say, like, you know, we did have an elevator crashing on you all, like, you know, the Fiend of Whimsy fight, no rest. Like, it is nuts out there. So, like, what is everyone going into this fight with currently?
Am I allowed to answer this question?
I don't... Literally... Does Diplin are you just an imp like stat block? Is that what Diplin is?
I don't know if I was never given a stat block either. For all I know, I am just an imp with 1 hit point.
So it's Mira and Serenup.
What?
And Integrity. Wait, Integrity's also in the fight. She just wasn't here, so I was like, wait, is it just the 2 of us? It's Mira and Serenup
Oh,
and
if it was
Integrity.
only the 2 of you, you'd be
Carla
dead.
is dearly
Right?
missed.
Right?
She was unable to join us for this podcast recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in a bad spot. Mira has no bardic inspirations. She can recover 1 with her Spellweave Lyre, like 3 spell slots, most of which are low level. We've had a lot of encounters without even a short rest. For some reason, we lost half our hit points for a falling elevator. Then we fought the knight. Then we activated all of those traps. Then it was the Fiend of Whimsy fight, and now we're fighting the Fiend of Death. I'm not confident in our abilities.
What, you don't think you would take on an opponent called the Fiend of Death?
Good question.
Maybe she's called that because that's what she's best at.
I feel like if you've made it this far, surely you can overcome this last trial, right?
I mean, I kind of have a couple, like I have like a couple of spell slots for everything except for like level 5, but I do have like 1 level 6, and I did steal a bunch of health from both Imps and Boo when I killed him.
I mean,
So I'm a little bit
if
healthier.
worst comes to Horst,
Title already.
you always have the coin.
Yeah,
That is true.
I'm very curious if the intention on Luke's part behind kind of shepherding us into a fight that could otherwise be unwinnable is like sort of to get us to use the coin, because that's the only thing I can really imagine other than scripted failure, which I just don't think that Luke would do.
Scripted.
Yeah, it's like those Kingdom
Yeah,
Hearts
I
fight
don't-
scenes where like...
Yeah, I
No
don't
matter
think
how
Luke
hard you
would do
try,
that.
you will just lose.
The darkness will take
I
you now.
think we might try. This may be an attempt to bait us into using the coin, which I am fully on board with.
Yeah, what does the coin... Does Mira know? Like, do you know what the coin does? Do you have the statistics?
Luke offered to send them to me, and I said, please don't send me the statistics. Mira doesn't know. Even though I wouldn't metagame, I still just don't want to have that knowledge. I think it would be more fun to flip it not knowing what's going to happen.
Oh my God.
The only 2 people who know what the coin does is Luke and me. I know what the coin does.
And you're not telling.
I'm excited to see it used. I'm not saying anything else.
Heavens to Betsy.
I mean, I'm taking the vision, the vision that like Integrity got as like, you know, taking a plunge and everything like that. I'm taking that as seriously as possible. I'm gonna try and dive off of the friggin' thing.
Are you sure the plunge does not mean just jump into the river?
That's what I thought it meant.
I want to take a sidebar real quick. Why are you all so quick to trust a prophecy or an answer from something literally called the mouth of deceit?
Right? Hey, here's some advice from the mouth that lies to you. Now, we gotta do this. The mouth that lies to you said so.
I mean, listen,
Like-
this being in duplicity has not had our best moments.
It is not.
I don't know. It had some pretty killer moments.
Oh yeah, very
Hey.
killer. I don't know. I'd be more willing to trust a trinket called the Maw of Deceit over something that could literally fucking kill us. I don't think the Maw of Deceit will kill us.
I think it will kill us if you take the plunge into the spirit river. Can you swim in spirits?
Who says it's made of spirits? It could just be regular old water with terrifying
spirits in
hands
it.
that come out from the depths that drag you under.
Yeah,
That's not
like
that
what
bad.
if- yeah,
That's
you
not
can
bad
still
at
swim
all.
through it. You just gotta avoid the hands.
Just don't get grabbed.
Don't get grabbed. There you go.
Well, either way, I've put off talking about it for as long as possible, but we got to go ahead and bite the bullet. Everyone, please pay respects to a fallen soldier, the best, the brightest, the biggest, Boo Bolero. Does anyone have like any words that they would like to say about Boo?
Boo Bolero was a man, and when a man dies, it is sad.
Everyone should watch Succession.
It's a good show.
You're doomed to die from the very beginning.
God.
All of us will die one day, and today it is Boo Bolero that has died.
I guess.
If it was any one of us, I'd rather it be
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, honestly,
Honestly, yeah.
that was what it came
Like,
down to.
Ben, were you expecting to go at this point?
Yeah, I was literally going into that episode expecting, Boo dies
Oof.
here.
What made you make that decision?
I think the stakes have probably never been higher than they have been in that particular moment because the coin was literally in his grasp and it was swiped when he was unconscious by Mira. Mira had the coin. Mira was going to do whatever the fuck that she wanted with the coin, and Boo was not having it. He's like, literally the one person that I probably do not like in this moment has what I want, and I will likely try and do whatever it takes to get it back. Clearly, it was very unsuccessful in that because he just got blasted.
Just got shot.
Well, it wasn't blasted. It was getting grabbed by a bunch of dark tentacles that just stole your life force.
Well, and I want to be clear here. The description was that black tentacles of life-stealing force actually went into the extant wounds. So just imagine, like, having a massive gash in you and then having something else, like, go inside and start sucking more of you out.
It's like pouring salt on the wound, but it's worse than pouring salt
Yeah,
on the
It's
wound.
way
Yeah,
worse than
way
Salt.
worse.
Sarah
worse,
killed someone
yeah.
possibly one of the most gruesome ways possible.
Yeah, and then
Yep.
his corpse, like the head of his corpse, landed on the middle of the spindle.
Yeah, ugh.
And I'm likely certain that that his face was impaled by the spindle. It was brutal.
What a
was.
way to die. And it's fun that I feel like it couldn't have ended any other way, right? Because, Mira made this offer, and I, as Sarah, had Mira make the offer to Boo of like, okay, well, what if we team up to get rid of Celti? Like, maybe we can both benefit from this in the end, knowing that there's no way that Boo was going to accept it just because of who he is as a person, which I think is a very fun... It's always very fun when there are ways a story could end, but because of who the characters are, you know that they are never going to end that way.
What was so fun, though, about Mira being the one to make the offer is that she was the one who had butted heads with Boo the most.
Yep.
And so it was like,
Yep.
this person being the one to, like, extend the olive branch also probably is the one most likely to seal his fate. Like, I wonder how Boo would have reacted. And, like, obviously, like, we know that Boo was going, like, into that session to die. But, like, I wonder if it would have changed the gauge at all if it had been like Sereneth or Integrity making that offer rather than Mira, where it is like, oh, for Mira, it's a sort of like pity looking down on him, which makes sense. Boo is quite a complex about that kind of thing.
I think it was more about the fact that he knew Celti was a pretty strong individual and didn't want to risk going up against something that he knew he probably didn't have any chance of fighting against.
That's so fun because Boo has been running all of his life out of fear, and he was given the opportunity to save his life by refusing to run, and it was his running from death that sealed it.
Yeah.
What? God, that is so good. And also, additionally to that, like, this is Boo running, like, being a coward in his last moments as, like, that's his defining character trait. And it happens after seeing results of his own strength. Like, this is someone who is afraid of Celti after killing two fiends. Like, when you offer, like, hey, the four of us might be able to take on Celti, it's not like you don't have the experience to back it up. You all have killed incredibly powerful people before.
Celti was around when Boo was a child. Celti was the one who kind of put his life on the path that it is to begin with by handing him the rigged dice, which basically, persuaded him to go down the path of, like, cheating and, like, lying and everything, because that's just how he had to make do. And then because of, like, I don't know, some ill-begotten fate or mix-up, the people of Wildcliff came by and were like, hey, recruitment for whatever
You want
reason.
to join
and
our
then,
sports program? You seem like a strapping young lad.
yeah.
Boo is the baby elephant in that one parable. You know, the metaphor about how, if a baby elephant is tied to a post, it'll try and it can't break out. So then when the elephant grows up, it never even tries anymore, even though it could easily get away.
I love that.
That's Boo.
That's very true.
Yeah. He didn't even die peacefully either. He died like in extreme fear of having to face his own death and the consequences that follow as well.
It's only fitting that a necromancy spell is like what did him in, right? Like, the true magic of death is tied to Boo in such a perfect way. Like, great work, Ben, on playing this doomed character from start to finish. Absolutely incredible.
He had a good run.
Great run. Incredible run.
Oh yeah.
Really thought he was going to go down against Horst, but I really was not expecting the confrontation there.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of, like, if he had, what do you think is, like, the greatest failure that Boo would have seen?
We probably would have seen, like, the most traumatic event that probably defines his entire character was his teammates losing their lives in that one examination that happened, like, so long ago. Like, we probably would have learned more about who they were and what their names were. I'm pretty sure most people already know what two of them are.
What are they?
Because they were revealed in a flashback between Fiend of Avarice and Boo. I'll give their names. So the first one was a halfling named Lissa. The second one was a wood elf named Athena. And then the last one, I think that we never got to saw at all, was an earth genasi called Amun.
Oh, all A's.
Yeah, so I had their cute little abbreviation as well, so it's like lab with 2 A's.
Oh, I like that.
Aww.
And Boo was at the last because he was the last one who, survived and then ran away. If you probably went to the Wildcliff memorabilia books or something like that, you would probably see like their first year photos.
Aw, a
There.
little 18-year-old Boo Bolero. So much light in his eyes.
Yeah.
Hurts.
Damn.
Is he meant to be an echo of Artis in a way? He is this adult figure who these kids are now spending time around, shepherding them into a new place, and he's also the last of his group to stay alive. And unlike Artis, who treats it more as a burden, or more as like just, it was a test of endurance, for Boo, it was all about running away. Like, it's about the hustle to stay alive. Was that intentional, or am I just on some other shit?
It was definitely not intentional, but I can see the parallels between Boo and Artis. The only difference is that Artis managed to endure and now seeks to make things better for himself and like make right of wrongs or something like that. Boo never got that, so he ended up losing his life for that. And I feel like if Artis went down that same path, he probably wouldn't be here either.
It makes a lot of sense to me. But as for Serenepth and Mira, do you guys want to talk about the visions that you all received as you went into this fight against Horst?
I feel like I feel like it was a really good setup, especially with the fact that I think that was because like obviously like other stuff has happened to us in the podcast and everything like that. I feel like for Serenepth, for it to be Angelica and everything like that, it was one of the few times that she kind of did have more control over the situation, and she still ended up having her friend succumb to fall unconscious, everything like that. So it definitely was kind of a hit, especially with the fact that like compared to how everyone else was reacting to theirs of like, hey, like this isn't Serenepth's was, I promise, like please we can help you, like please don't do this again, don't do this. That whole situation.
Do you think that reaction, where do you think that comes from for Serenepth? Is she afraid to face this?
I think Serenepth has, even though it ends up happening a lot, I think she has a lot of issue with her failure hurting somebody else. And the fact that she had to see it possibly happen again in that vision, I think that led to a moment of, I don't know if this term would actually work in this, but like fight or flight, but like instead of that, it would be like fighting against her, like begging it to stop sort of situation where she kind of ended up going with the option of, I can't, like, please, like, no, in some version of you that I see, like, that we are going to help you, and please just don't take that next step.
How far is Serenepth willing to go?
We learned what happens when people ask that question, what happened to Boo. I think that...
Hey, she hasn't gone far enough to actually make a deal with the progenitor. She had that chance and she walked away, and Angelica paid the price.
Yeah.
So, like, what is she willing to do?
I think at this point, with everything that's happened, because obviously I would have had a different answer at another time, but I think at this point, with what's happened with Boo, with what happened with Winsler, I think she's finding more solutions in violence, which isn't great, but it has been a method that shows more results in her favor.
Well,
so
that makes
maybe,
sense in the sense
Yeah.
that she doesn't have any social power anymore, really. I mean, she doesn't have a noble title. She doesn't have like this unlimited access to her family's funds anymore. What she does have is an incredible ability to shoot things with magic and make them die.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of Serenep's spells are that kind of offensive magic. And hey, when all you have is a hammer, all of your problems start looking like nails. Am I right?
That's the second time I've
Oh,
seen
yeah.
that
Like-
that like phrase in like the past 2 days. What the hell?
No, like it's like, and the weird thing is that like probably when she was first learning magic, these were seen as more like, this is how you're going to defend yourself against someone who might want to hurt you. But now it's turned into, this is how you're going to get your way, because her negotiations don't go great. And like you mentioned there, Sarah, like she doesn't really have the power of her family on her side anymore. She's just going to have to start finding other means of getting things done.
Villain arcs. Villain arcs.
It's happening.
It's so surprising to me to see Sereneth go on that trajectory after, like, you know, how shaken up she was over Yelm. And a part of me is like, was she shaken up over Yelm because it was an accident more than it was like, you know, I don't know. She's come a very long way. I don't know if it's in a good direction or not.
Yeah.
But Mira, on the other hand, had like the exact opposite reaction
Yeah.
to Sereneth, which I found like really fun that your scenes were back to back in that way.
Yeah, I think that was actually quite a triumphant moment from Mira. Her arcs pretty consistently since, I want to say Ferdinand, have been this thing of, I have this spell that should theoretically remove the stakes associated with the risk of death. It can bring people back to life, and virtually every time I use it, something goes horribly wrong. I can't revive the person. The person is revived and then uses that opportunity to turn into a lich. I'm out of spell slots, that sort of situation. And so she has been dealing with a lot of guilt from not being able to save people. And I think in that moment for Mira, this realization that my guilt over this is being turned into a weapon to be used against me by an evil person was a wake-up call in terms of, oh, this serves no purpose except to hurt me and to make me a less capable person. So being able to, I think, break out of that and go, I'm done apologizing, actually, was very triumphant for her.
It felt like one of the most triumphant moments in the entire arc, especially because though the arc has been like very fun and quite adventurous, there have not been moments of like real triumph. It has been like the stakes, like the tension ratcheting up higher and higher and higher, but like very little like, we've won. It's more like, we're shaking this tree again. We're helping out Horst. This can't be good.
Yeah, I, as Sarah, am extremely concerned going into this final fight, but I think Mira, coming out of this vision, honestly, I kind of think she's feeling great.
Well, I hope, God, you know, fingers crossed that she's able to pull something off.
Yeah.
But she won't be alone. She's going to
Nope.
have Diplin.
She's gonna have
my
Dylan.
Absolutely.
Ben, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got into Diplin's headspace?
He's a little sniveling creature. And I like playing little sniveling creatures.
Did you request Diplin?
No, I didn't request Diplin actually, but Luke was the one who brought it up. I was like, hey, do you want to play Diplin? And I'm like, sure, I'll play Diplin. I'll do my best.
That's a sign of a GM who knows, like, what his players like. He's like, oh, Ben loves playing a fucked up little guy. Let me just hand over this fucked up little guy to him.
I hope I did him justice because I know that in the very beginning, Diplin was kind of like, you know, very, very chatty and talkative and inquisitive little guy while he was taxing us over to duplicity in the beginning.
That was before, like, you know, this is the equivalent of, like, a Las Vegas taxi cab, like, driver driving some people in, and then over the course of, like, the next few hours,
The casino starts exploding.
yeah, casinos start exploding, like casino owners start dying off, like, and so then like this guy is like standing there at the hotel watching it go up in flames, and then
He's
you guys are like,
hysterical.
all out here covered in like scratches and like, you know, burning with arcane energy, and you're like, hey, come along. We're going to go talk to the big boss. Of course, Diplin is going to be a little bit more sniveling.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
We love Diplin.
Yeah, I also just feel like he would probably just be too overwhelmed with his own, like, state of being and, like, current position to sort of comprehend what's going on. So the fact that he was just, like, seeing visions of this that would actually harm him if he didn't find a way to break out of that, I don't think he realized the true danger of that, and he was just kind of, like, stuck. Couldn't really, he felt like he probably didn't have the power to do anything about it.
God, it makes a lot of sense. I hope that he has more power than his tiny little, like,
He is
imp stat block lets on.
He's a weak-willed individual compared to the rest of the party, so...
I can't wait for Diplin to step in and save the day, honestly. I'm so excited for that twist.
This is Diplin's world. We're just living in it.
Diplin will be the
Exactly.
martyr for your success.
God. Yeah, it has been, like, quite a lot of combat. How did you all, like, feel about that Whimsy fight as well? I know Sam, you mentioned Sereneth getting just like a ton of, like, healing from the imps there. So, I don't know, like, tell me, as players, when a big boss sits down and says, oh, we can fight, or do you want to play a fucked up game? Is there ever, like, how big is the temptation to actually choose to play the game?
Depends on the kind of game.
And plus, we were warned about not doing that in there, so I was much more on the line of this is either going to go really okay or this is going to go really horribly, but either way, I don't want to play the game.
I feel a little bad for not taking Luke's bait here because I feel like Luke kind of did hope a little bit that we were able to play the game. But for the characters, I feel like it was seeded so much that, every NPC telling us, like, don't play the game. Characters who are like, my son is imprisoned forever because I played the game. Meanwhile, for the characters, in every situation so far in Duplicity, when they use violence, they win. So it's kind of like, okay, let's use violence and win.
Guess you call violence the gambling game in this situation, though.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think the best way to defeat Galvan, the like game maker or whatever, the best way to beat Galvan is to just not play the game. If you don't play the game, he can't really do much to you. So
that makes sense to me, but also my heart, like, the DM heart breaks because it's I know, like, there are, like, mechanics that, like, Luke spent, like, was staying up till 2 a.m. writing out, like, I'm going to have a virtual roulette wheel, and it's going to have various things that can happen on it. And then it's like, no, we would rather just play D&D rather than your game. It's like, yeah, well, that's fair.
If Windsor was there, I would have said yes. I would have
tracks.
agreed to taking part in the game.
I'm so curious how this arc, obviously this arc would not have happened if Winsler was still with us, but I do wonder how Winsler would have responded to a lot of the stuff happening in this arc. Just in general. Because, for example, Mira is like, hey, we should liberate this place. And Boo's like, hey, fuck you. I'm very curious if Winsler...
Come here to liberate these fools.
You think there's a difference between right things and wrong things? You fool. You absolute moron.
I think Winsler would probably just be more concerned about preserving the people that are around him more so than trying to, like, rescue everybody in the plane, because I think he understands that this place is dangerous and, likely we're not going to be able to do much. We might as well just, like, keep ourselves together and make sure everyone else is safe so that we can get out alive and unscathed.
All it
Safe
takes
answer.
for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing.
True.
I mean, with us going in and killing the fiends, isn't that kind of doing something because we're breaking the chains that they're connected to? We just have to deal with, like, one more big fiend in this place and then break the last chain and then everyone's just kind of free.
My worry is Duplicity at the center of this plane? Like, is this the anchor that keeps the plane stable? And are these fiends important pillars of that place? If
We're
we
already
destroy
breaking
all
the
the
pillars
fiends,
in that case.
is the whole plane going to fall into chaos and start crumbling?
Maybe it
Well,
should.
Yeah, like,
maybe it should, but also you do have an architect here with you, someone who has built the plane before, right? Is that what Deanna did?
Yeah.
She designed it?
Yeah.
I thought she built Duplicity itself, but
she
like
helped
not
build
I
Duplicity.
see. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I got that mixed up. That's my mistake. But still, tell me, as long as we're, like, talking about, like, Winsler hypotheticals, what do you think he would have seen as his greatest failure if he were here?
Ooh.
That's a really good question.
I have my own personal theory, but I would love to hear what you think. And also, if anyone else has any suggestions or ideas, throw them out. Winsler is, as long as Ben is not playing him, all of our character.
What would we have seen as his biggest failure?
Would it have, like, my question is, would it be something concerning him? Like, for instance, giving Stealthy part of his soul? Would it have been something like, or like maybe like Chudley, like the whole situation at Nebulosis, maybe?
Yeah,
I feel like it might have something to do with Chudley.
Yeah.
That's
Not
the one
killing him
big
when you
thing
had
that
the
I can think
chance.
of. No, not. My greatest failure was not killing Chudley when he had the chance.
Unironically, yeah, maybe. Like,
Maybe. Or I feel like his biggest failure was maybe being so willing to trust Chudley at the beginning, maybe.
See, my thought was that it was turning over like the golem schematics to Crow.
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
That might
everything
be
that happened
one.
with like Toll, like in the under campus, that whole situation.
That
maybe.
too. That would probably be a big failure. I forgot about that.
Damn.
God, yeah.
There's a lot.
It's been a long campaign.
Yeah.
So
if a
many things have
character
gone
didn't have a
wrong.
bunch
It's
of
fine.
fuck-ups
It's been a long
throughout
campaign.
A 3-year
Yeah.
campaign, they wouldn't be a character.
True.
Exactly. Like, no one tells great stories about people playing it safe.
Yeah.
You gotta live fast, die young. That's the name of the game when you're in a
Bad
magic
girls do
school
it
setting.
well.
Live fast, die
that
young.
is-
Join Wildcliff.
That is not advice from me as like a don't do that if you're an impressionable child listening in.
If you're a
Live
child
slowly,
listening to our
die old.
podcast, oh my god.
Well, perfect. I wanted to go ahead and check and see. Let's check and see how we're doing on time. But we did get a nice introduction to a few new characters, and I was curious if anyone was going to be interested in a little game of battleships.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Gosh,
Let's do
yes.
this.
Let's go.
Excellent. So, the main people that I have in mind were Deanna. We've now gotten more Kreschel as well, so I'm now adding them to the list. Then we have Galvin, the Fiend of Whimsy, finally making an appearance. Oh, and then the Knight, but I don't know if that even counts as a person.
No.
Damn. I mean, he's not a person anymore. He died.
He's not a person. He's just a pile of goo now, I guess.
Oh, do we also want to
Yeah.
include Diplin?
Sure, let's include Diblin. Why not?
Like, for some reason, all I can think of, for instance, would be just Kreschel in, like, the open sea.
Oh my god.
They hop onto their boat and they just sail off into the open ocean.
Galvan and Diplin is the only thing that I can come up with in my head.
Explain.
Justify that. Like, don't get me wrong, I get the Kreschel one. That one is like just point A to point B. What is this?
Okay, well,
Is it just that they're both
Diplin likes
imps?
money, right? And Galvan likes games, so I feel like Galvan would provide Diplin with a lot of those games. Like, it's a very terrible like cycle of gambling addiction that they share. That's what their relationship is kind of built off of. It's like a weird
no.
like gambling addiction and like entertainment addiction, but it's like, you know, they kind of like it.
Ben, here's the relationship that I think should win. It's the codependent one where they like really feed into each other's worst selves. Actually, that's valid. That is a valid ship.
I mean, a point to Ben, like, at least Galvan likes the imps, and because, like, he can, like, take their form and everything like that, like, there's, like, maybe a level of respect, but, like, besides that, it just kind of goes downhill from there.
All right, I've got one.
Let's hear it.
So my ship is Deanna X Henrietta Hedrick, or as I like to call it, #Brangel. You know, they have stuff in common. They have stuff they can bond over. They both built like these big central places that everything is revolved around. I think they both have some pretty significant like thoughts about what it became. Both of these characters, you know, directly have ties to Ben's PCs dying, which is, you know, great fun.
Wow.
You know, I feel like if you want to go toxic codependent, you know, Deanna spent the last several hundred years being like kept as a trophy in the ice room. Same thing Henrietta did to her like academic rival. Same exact shit. They can kind of bond over this strategies. Deanna's like, hey, this isn't cool. Maybe there's a redemption arc there for Henrietta. Maybe there's a corruption arc there for Deanna. I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, them being such central establishing figures to these big places that have then transformed beyond recognition, and both of them having to team up, make the planes better, make Wildcliff better, or worse, depending on what they want. I think they have a lot to have in common.
Excellent. All right. So We have hashtag Brangel with Henrietta Hedrick and Deanna. Then we have Galvin and Diplin. Ben, do you have a fun ship name for those two, or is it just toxic?
Toxic.
And Sam, is Kreshel X the Open Sea your final answer?
Yar har.
Absolutely. Hashtag pirate life for me.
Everyone, send in your votes to me via DM. Oh, is that how you spell Deanna?
Yes, apparently.
Oh no, I don't know.
Luke
how to
just
spell
never
Luke about
corrects
his
anybody
names.
because he thinks it's funny.
No.
Yeah, 8 months later, he spells it like D-I-Z-O-U-A-A.
Everyone, I wanna spell out Deanna real quick. D-I-A-U-N-A. If that's how you thought it was spelled just by hearing it, I want to congratulate you on having a window into Luke's twisted, fucked up little mind.
Well, like, I don't even know if that's the correct spelling. I just
is.
recall that Luke was like saying that this is how, like,
Yep, that's the
this
right
is how
one.
you spell it.
I don't know how to spell anything, but there we go.
Well, look at it. It's beautiful. Brangel, it's the one that had the portmanteau, so you know it had to win.
Let's go.
Takes it easy peasy. Ben getting the other vote for, like, we all know that, you know, some people just love some toxic romances.
You're pandering, Ben, but I respect it.
Well, great stuff. Sarah has caught back up to Carla on our scoreboard.
Oh, shit.
So, for all of you battleship heads keeping up out there, it is a neck and neck tie for the lead. But for now, I'm going to have to leave them all in the dust as I head on over to slide into the DMs.
Whoa! Oh, we're sliding.
Slide over. Oh, wow. And we're stopping. Welcome back to Sliding in the DMs. I'm your host, Nathan, and joining me today is the architect of this arc, an architect, if you will. It's Luke.
Hello, everybody. I am the architect. Pleasure to be here on Conversations in Catapults. It's been a blast since the last one, and I'm so excited to be here again.
I've had a great time since it's been so long since we recorded, and now they've gotten me back in here. You know, I had such a nice break, and now I'm back doing the hard show of CNC.
It's difficult to, well, you see, the thing is, you question my reasoning and the storytelling and say, now, why'd you do that one? Let's look at that one, champ.
We all know that DMs hate having to explain their
true.
worlds, their stories, their decisions, the thoughts that went into them. Those are the things that a dungeon master doesn't want people to ask about.
Exactly.
And wants to keep close to the chest.
DMs only really want to talk about rules.
Yeah, hey, let's talk about, all right, so 1D&D, am I right? I mean, cool. No. Yeah, we are covering a lot, but we're going to focus primarily on the most recent 2 episodes. But I also do want to say, good grief, you have been throwing encounters and damage at these fools
yes.
like nothing else. What? Are you just like trying to play up the high lethality of hell? Or is it more that they have stumbled, or like things just happened and more damage was taken than you expected?
Well, yes, more damage was taken than I expected, but I think that this is a very dangerous place. They've been dealing with the 3 most presumably dangerous fiends in the entire plane, and if they're gonna get away from that scot-free, then I feel like I've been doing it wrong. Sure, we could give us a bit of distance between some of these encounters, but that's not for me to decide, honestly. If the players... This is a thing that happened in It's Just a Phase. If the players want a pause, then I, as a DM, have nothing but ears for when they say, we want a rest right now. And if, say, they were to do that in the middle of something, sure, I'm going to stop them. But if I ask them multiple times in a row, maybe it's not even in the episode, what do you guys want to do now? Is this what you want to do now? And they float the idea out there and no one goes, yeah, that's what we're doing. Then that, you know, it sucks, but grasp the story by the horns if you really want that shit.
Yeah.
That's my honest opinion as a DM. I'm not going to put the brakes on. It's your job to put the brakes on.
It's a very urgent situation. You know, I understand the sense of haste.
Yeah. I'm going to keep pushing. And if they would like that pushing to stop, then it can. If only they ask. If only they say, "This is what I want." If only those community.
If they need only beg for mercy, and I shall hear.
Listen, Deanna said it. She was like, "Is it only the force of life that keeps you from helping me?" And they could have been like, "Yeah, girl, it is only that. You know, it's our spell slots at our HP, and we're kind of in dire straits." And you know, they could have gotten help. They could have gotten some help from Deanna if only they asked very kindly and begged. I think that ship has maybe sailed a little bit now after the murder of one Boo Bolero. I think Deanna does not regard the remaining party, the students, with any heroism in their hearts.
I mean, listen, you don't need to have heroism in your heart to have heroism in your actions. These people are, they're burning down hell. You love to see it.
Deanna having this, like, being pulled out of the ice after presumably hundreds of years of Galvan, like, torturing her and psychologically and physically, like, when they first show up and she's like, "I don't believe that you're actually who you say you are. Give me the chisel if you're actually not Galvan trying to pull something on me." And then they give her the chisel and she's like, a little bit of trust is formed. And then she's like, "Help me kill Galvan." And they're like, "I guess if we need to," right? And then a little bit of trust is formed. And then they kill Galvan and a little bit of trust is formed. And then they murder Boo and she's thrown off the rocker here of like, "Oh, my somewhat of a sister, Horst, wants me. She knew I was here this entire time, probably. What does she want me for? This place that I built." She says this in 220 when they're walking through Duplicity of like, she's like beside herself with this like kind of like small grief of, "I built this place as a respite for the dead souls before they move on to whatever comes after death," right? Whatever comes after the afterlife, whether that's them being reborn or their souls becoming part of the plane or the astral sea or wherever souls go after the afterlife. Duplicity is supposed to be like a little rest, a place to have joy if you never had that in your life before the true end, right? And seeing that it's turned into like this den of sin where fiend kills person and people fight for their lives. The dead are now enslaved to work for the eternity underneath the fiends. Seeing that and then also being around these people who have prove themselves to be not super trustworthy, I think is like doing a lot to put her in a very flight in the fight or flight kind of mode of things and being quite...
Yeah, which is partially like why Mira's saying like, "Yeah, maybe you should be scared of us." Kind of the right move there. Because if you're scared enough, you would think to run. However, if you're even more scared, then you're like, "I cannot run." But like, absolutely a difficult situation that she's in. And I also had a question regarding like the lore aspects of like the Deanna Horst stuff, like the history of this plane. Did all of that come before this arc, or did you build out that lore in order to like flesh this arc out more?
Well, let me tell you, years upon years ago, someone said people were deliberating what the different planes could be after we went to Isithil. And someone made the presumption of, well, obviously Rel, god of life and death and healing, must be in control of hell. And I was like, I don't like that you're making assumptions about my world. So out of spite, I then was like, Lem is in charge of hell, as a joke. And then I kept making that joke and I was like, you know what? That would be actually fun, because I had this idea of like, what we see now in Lem, like this den of sin, as it were, the hells, the fiends with the contracts and the mischief and such things. And so that kind of spiraled out of me just making a single like spite-induced joke. I don't even know who the person was who
I was about to ask if
I have
you
no
could
clue.
remember.
I have no clue who it was. But I remember it was probably around, oh goodness, just after Faint of Heart or around Faint of Heart when I was like, no. It's not. Seriously. But the actual specifics of what that is, with the angels and the change and the fiend of XYZ, that came when it was time to fill out this arc and flesh out this arc. Because I knew I wanted to work with devils. I knew I wanted to, because there's just this allure of devil making deals. One hell of a deal is the name of the arc, after all. And I just really enjoy the kind of like double-sided like nature of fiends, where they're like, oh, we're gonna do this by the details, and everything other than that, I'm going to try to screw you over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking out for number one, and that's me. And having an entire plane of people who are like that just it seems super great. And then to have the twist of the knife be like, oh, one of these people used to be an angel, actually, and her responsibility is to care for the souls of the dead. And look at how far she has fallen from that day, right? And this idea of that kind of thing of like, Rel did used to own this plane. This used to be Rel's plane. There's lingering aspects of that. The lanterns, the river that no one uses anymore, the structures, the kind of angels themselves, but those are relics and nothing more, right?
Relics?
Relics. Oh, that's lovely.
This is why they pay me the big bucks.
A feeling of it's a change. This has changed. It's irreversible. This cannot go back. I've seen people discussing about that of like, oh, is it possible for Rel to recapture this plane? And the answer to that is no. And kind of like figuring out the details of that, of like, how did it come to be that Rel has now their own new plane, but it has a much smaller focus. Here's the thing. In figuring out the change and what this plane is, what Lem is, it really re-solidified my ideas of what all the other planes are. And that was kind of something that I showed very, very slightly back in It's Just a Phase, when they went through like that astral tunnel to the moon. And they got like this peek at all of the figments of the different planes, right? And Point in Case being one of the ones which they now are looking at interacting with, tying a rope around, was the chalice inside of Horst's office.
Is there a special name for that chalice?
As the Maw of Deceit called it, the Forge of Souls, I believe. And then the Chalice of something. I'm sure there's like a proper name in my notes. Surely it can't just be
don't
the
worry
Chalice
about it.
of
I
Lem.
need to talk to you about another thing that you decided to name, which is the Maw of Deceit.
The Maw of Deceit. Oh,
all right. Like, fascinating choice, I will say, to have the Maw of Deceit be able to cast the divination spell.
Yeah.
And then just treat it as gospel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust you when you said it cast divination. I think you just lied.
Wow. The audacity to believe that I would just lie to my players.
You're the one who called it the Maw of Deceit.
Yeah.
How we're setting up to not to trust it, or I assume. I don't know what to think.
Well, that's the joy of it, I believe. And that's also, I think, the part of it being I guess we can just call it the organ, which pertains to Whimsy's domain. Like, Avarice had the Heart of Desire, right? And then Horst has her Eye of Delight. And then Whimsy gets this Maw of Deceit. Does it tell the truth? Does it not? Who knows? And that's probably why Whimsy fucking loves it so much, to have chiseled it out of the stone and keep it on his person, you know? Not to count even on its divination abilities. I'm sure that played some small part. That was something, actually, I can note on this, is that I was kind of sad with how the Whimsy encounter went.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Because I was really hoping that they were going to try to gamble. And in the fight, I was like, I need to fucking knock one of these idiots out and then force a gamble situation, right? But like, he just got stonewalled. He was like, hey, hand over that coin. I'll give you a great opportunity. We'll play some games. It'll be a great time. And then they were like, no, we're just going to kill you, which they did successfully. Great.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things. This is why I didn't give him a break. Because I offered them a chance to solve this without fighting, and they fought, right? They could have simply done it. They could have just walked out the door if they said, yeah, let's play a single spin of roulette, win or loss, right? They could have walked out that fucking door without anything and just their luck. And I was prepared. I was so prepared for them to be able to do that. And Galvan would have just been like, yeah, walk out the door. I don't give a shit. You won, right? We're going to uphold the rules of the game because they're fiends and they care about the rules, right? If this is the rules of our deal, I'm going to follow them, right? And I also prepared...
That's difficult, though, because you also have Deanna being like, yay, will you please kill Galvan? Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Do you guys want to play a game? we gotta kill you, I'm afraid. Is that part of the game?
Yeah.
No, it's roulette.
That's fair.
I don't know. I understand, though. I think that is the true struggle of a DM, is wanting to signpost, like, hey, this person is known for this thing. So, like, that's why we heard from, like, other NPCs, like, don't play a game with Whimsy. Like, don't get into this, you won't win, etc., etc. But you as the DM are like, oh, I put a lot of work into the game. Or like, you know, I want to play the game. The whole reason that I
want to
talk
play
about the game.
because I want to make you risk so much more. Because if you're just going to fight, the risk is so small. It's hard to kill characters. It's going to be a protracted thing. The worst thing that you're going to get is like the hit point tax, all right? Where it's like, oh, we did this fight. It just took some HP and some spell slots away from me, and I'm not worse for the wear. The joy of the fact that they were already very drained is that now they're going into the fight with the Fiend of Death at such low capacity for output, to the point that they're going to have to rely on the other people they brought in with them to the extent that they can, like Diplin's on the ground, still wreathing from like that black mist from the Eye of Delight, and then
Level
everyone
20
else is
Paladin Diplin.
Yeah.
I can't believe we lost him.
But like they're gonna have to rely on stuff like the people they brought with them. They're gonna have to rely on ingenious solutions to a very difficult problem, and also I think Mira will have to, without knowing really what it does, rely on the twin coin of life and death, which is just
what's
something.
that do?
Oh, what does that do? It does something. I'm excited. I was excited for Mir to hand it over to Galvan so that he could have used it against the party if they tried to fight him.
See, I'm dying to hear what it does now, just because you guys are, recording tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes.
Oh, it'll be used before Sarah ever hears this episode. You can tell me. It's no big deal. You know, it's going to be used. It's fine. Just go ahead. Tell our listeners at home what they could be looking forward to in this next fight.
What they can be looking forward to in the next fight is, because the players are so... I'm not going to answer the question, but because the players are at such a low threshold for damage... This is something that's actually builds on the way that Horst interacted with them. Since they were at a really low threshold for damage, I wanted to challenge them in a way that wasn't just outright combat, which is why I gave them visions of people who they've damned and left for dead, or sold to be dead, or outright caused the death of, which, if you're paying attention, listener, that does mean what you think it means about Angelica Lindman. But, and then like the
that she's in a coma. She's in a coma. She's fine.
She's fine.
Okay. She has that blanket.
But I wanted them to confront those things in a non-combat encounter where if they had not tried to change something, or if they had not fought back against what the vision was showing them in some way, then they would be just like Diplin, who sat by and didn't try to change anything, and he's still like foaming out the mouth on the ground. And then someone would have to waste their action to like wake them up after that, and then that's a tense situation. It makes it a tense situation when people have to like help each other. But nonetheless, I wanted to like start that encounter with something that was like not combat, that was like directly pertaining to death and forcing these people to reflect, especially an episode after they killed Boo. And then next episode, when they're actually going to fight her for reals in a real combat encounter, since they're so close to the edge, I really want to play with that and play with how cruel of a person Horst is. And I'm excited for that. We'll see how it goes. I hope someone flips that coin, because I'd love to see it happen.
But I also wanted to speak to you about those visions of the great failures.
Yes.
And I just wanted to like see, like, you know, I talk to the players a lot about like how they feel or how they react towards like what you have put in their way. How did you feel as like those scenes went on? Like we had Serenuph first, who it was almost kind of like a sort of denial of like, it can't be like this, or like I won't let this happen, refusing to acknowledge what's in front of her face, which is Angelica's gone.
Yeah.
But I may be misunderstanding there.
I think that Serenuph has within her the ability to try very hard to fight for what she believes and the way that she believes the world to be. Rejecting, I do think it's a rejection of what actually happened, because there's like this line from Angelica, this line of thinking from Angelica, which is just a more amplified version of what she would have been feeling eons past in episode 140 when that events actually occurred, which is, I'm not good enough to exist while Serenuph or my sister exist. And so like voicing those things directly to Serenuph, both in terms of like that being an extension of Angelica's thought, and both that being an extension of Serenuph's anxiety about failing a friend, is the more interesting thing there. And Serenuph has like complete rejection of that ideal, right? Like that is not the world as I see it. And for the purposes here, that's fine. I think Serenuph oftentimes pushes back against the perceptions of other people that they have against her, or of, I think Serenade also often pushes back against perceptions. So that feels in line with character. The same way Mira fighting back against the idea that she was in the wrong, that she did something wrong, that she didn't try to the best of her ability to fix that situation. I think that her screaming out into the void at herself, at this vision of Isithil, that she did everything she could and there's no use getting caught up on anything else. I think that is also a perfect encapsulation of Mira fighting back against, thematically, just fits with the character. And again, the same way with Integrity, we see another display of the ideal way that their characters interact with the world. Integrity promised to save people, and she's going to uphold that promise. In any other day, she'd be a paladin, but here she is a warlock, right? She failed this promise to Bailey, and in doing so also failed this promise to save herself, right? And that's juicy to me. That's delicious. And Integrity still, despite failing, staying until the end and trying to keep everything from falling apart, right? That's Integrity Guidelberry.
Yeah.
Mira Marchand was Mira Marchand. Serenap Cinderman was Serenap Cinderman. They played their characters the way that they would have ideally fixed those situations, or the way that they interact with those visions. And it also, especially with Mira's, gives me good ideas of how to approach these kind of things in the future, if that makes any sense. Knowing that this is where Mira's at, when we go forward and do something, for instance, like the astral projection, and then consequently will land in Shiora-related events, I have a much better impression of how to frame any opposition, any kind of non-combat opposition to Mira. Not so much going to do this thing again where it's like, oh, do you feel sorry? Do you wish you did something different? Instead, knowing that Mira is already at this state where she believes she's going to stick by what she did, and what she did was the best at the possible time. Killing Boo was the best possible solution there. There is not anything else. That kind of immutable spirit. I'm very excited for that in conjunction with further Shiora plans and plots on my end. I think that's a very interesting kind of place for Mira as a character to be at. She's gone down a very dark path, I think, and though that does dishearten me, we'll see before the end how much Mira changes from here going on. The world's not been kind to her.
It has not been kind to her, but I wouldn't call her path a dark one. I think Mira has, or at least, especially in this arc, and I've said this previously, has been acting very heroically. And
I agree.
I
still think ordering the death of an innocent man isn't what a good person does.
The innocent man being
Boo Bolero.
I don't think she ordered his death.
She did. She was Saren up to do it.
She's the one who stuck out the olive branch to Boo.
I agree with that. And though Boo, we can disagree on this all we want, but she extended the olive branch. Boo disagreed because he, again, viewed Celti as a mountain which could not be climbed, right? Which, considering Boo's nebulous past with Celti, I think makes a lot of sense. I didn't imagine that Ben was going to take that deal, but a part of me really was like, oh, that's where this is going to end.
I thought,
right? And that was
a part
exciting.
of me thought that was this is my storyteller brain, the heist rules. If the plan is we kill Boo to get the coin, and we establish the plan at the very beginning, well, then it can't go according to plan. We'll have to twist the plan, or there will have to be something switching up on us.
Yeah.
To be, the heist isn't on Boo, it's on Celti. And we couldn't have pulled off against Celti without Boo. And
so I was super excited in that moment for that exact same reason. Where
Yeah.
It's ooh, this is the real secret ending that none of us really saw coming. But it was not to be.
Was not to be. I think it absolutely is in line with the character of Boo Bolero to be just,
Oh, yes.
He is at his core a very scared little teen still. And he always will be. If he had made it to the Horst fight, were you going to show him a vision of his friends?
I was going to show him a vision, the exact same frame as the very first episode, the very first scene in Wildcliff where they're sitting in that hallway waiting to be sorted into teams. And it would have been him and his 3 teammates sitting in these chairs. And he would have been a fresh-faced young man, and they would have all been beaten and bloody and dying. And telling him, if you had stayed, you could have helped us. You could have fixed us, right? But you ran away. That was the plan with Boo.
It's so good. As long as you're doing what ifs. What if Winsler? Like, what would you have done for him?
I see you asked me this question last week.
I did.
And we
can't let the listeners know that we speak off mic.
This is the thing with Winsler Wallaby, is he has this I never did nothing wrong kind of attitude with him, where the biggest, you mentioned this, and I think it might be the best possible thing, is giving over plans for golems to Crow, right? Like teaching Crow's engineers to construct golems in this soulless servant style. That's, I think, the only thing that Winsler regrets. He's killed people or led people to their deaths, but maybe, here's the thing, related to golems, maybe it would be the scene where he goes to the Polishurium and he gets Toll killed.
I was thinking either that or like coming upon Ari's body in like that workshop, like Ari like, speaking as a corpse there, like on the table.
One of those two might be like the best possible kind of like modality of that, because in terms of like people he's killed, Winsler killed those people in Shake and Break and Nebulosis, like Chudley's gang, Amika, the elf. He killed her in a moment of in heated combat, right? And he had no hang-ups about it. He got a full night's sleep the next day.
He's a farm boy. He's had to put down animals before.
Yeah, so it's that is something I'm thankful for, because choosing something for Winsler would have been a bit less on theme, I think. Like the Ari or Toll one would work pretty good, but it wouldn't be quite as, because I think Winsler would just, in the Ari situation, Ari could lay the blame at Winsler's feet, and Winsler, I think, would be repentant, would apologize, would wish that he had taken any other course of action other than handing these people over to Crow, right? And in a similar way with Toll, wishing that it could have gone any other way than it did, right? Which is similar to like what Sereneth saw. Yeah.
Excellent. I really appreciate the insightful answer.
Yeah.
And I'm also, here's one more hypothetical for you. You've spoken before. There's always a plan if characters die. What if they die in this next combat?
If they die in this next
What if we get because they're all running super low. They have allies, but their allies are Diplin and Imp, which is CR half or 1.
Yeah.
Then there's Kreshel.
Yes.
Who, if I had to guess, is probably a Marinoloth. Or maybe not a Marinoloth. One of the Yugoloths, the one that's a good on a boat.
The one with the boat. Yeah.
Yeah, the one with the boat.
They're kind of useless off the boat, though.
They're awful off the boat. On the boat, they're great. And Diana, who is there, is essentially a hostage.
The crown situation, those circlets. God. When Mira was just, I'm going to grab this and run. I'm going to throw it down the elevator shaft. I was like, this is fantastic. I adore this. The circlet thing was something that I think is unclear right now, or I don't know if it'll ever be clarified what the purpose of those is. If this arc comes to an end and those get destroyed or don't get brought with the party, I would love to discuss with you what those were for. If Horst in combat doesn't give some like expository, put that circlet on her, or so help me, then we
put
can
it on
discuss
her so I can take over her body and regain my angelic form.
Then we can discuss that. I think that the circlets are fun. I think that if there's a TPK, we're gonna see some wonderful visions. God, that would be a horrific way for this to end. We're gonna see some visions beyond of what lays at the afterlife for these other people, right? Because there's some stuff that we've not got into, but I don't think any of the 3 of them, their afterlife lies in Lem itself. Not in the way that Winsler, I feel like, irreversibly, as a whimsy boy, a mischief man, possibly could have.
I wish that Winsler had been introduced that way as Winsler, the whimsy boy.
If we're going into further what ifs, Nathan.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I had super prepared things that I was going to take of the players in the event that they lost at their gambling.
Yeah, tell me what the gambling would have looked like. It's just a roll on the roulette wheel? Is that just a roll of a D100?
I was going to give them 2 options. I was going to give them a roll on the roulette wheel, which is a D20 because it's only 1 through 20, or they could have done I was very planned for if they didn't want to do that, they thought the odds were not good enough. I was going to offer them a Spirited Away situation of which one of us is Whimsy, right? Who in this room is the real Whimsy, right? Mm-hmm. Which at the time they were being spoken to by this little imp who they jumped to the assumption that obviously that had to be him. And as soon as they killed him, it jumped to a different guy. It jumped to a different one. All aspects, parts taken away from the whole. But the real answer would have been those 2 guards standing right there, which that's a bad odds situation if they went into that one, right? Mm-hmm. So nonetheless, I was planning to take from Sereneth Cinderman, our mortal who her dream upon dreams is to be like, I just want to be done with all this horrible stuff and live my life away from my horrible parents and horrible beginning of my life. I was going to take 50 years of life away from that one, which for a human, and as a 21-year-old human, that's not a lot of time left over.
Talking about Ghibli films, doing a Howl's Moving Castle on Sereneth.
Yeah. For Integrity Idleberry, I was going to steal her luck. I'm going to take Lucky away from her because,
that's brutal.
I think that it's something Galvan would have loved to have on his side, and I just think Integrity is too lucky for her own good kind of thing, right? Boobalero, it got like hinted at in a way that I think Ben took as like flirting, but I did not intend it as flirting whatsoever. Well, where Galvan was like, I love your eyes, right? He's a creature made of eyeballs. I was going to steal Boo's eyeballs right before that. And then if they got in a fight later, I was going to steal his little ball eyes. And then for Mira Marchand, this is the one I had the most difficulty with because I didn't want to like your music ability. And like that's lame. I didn't want to do something so like, I don't know. There was a lot of stuff pulling at me. I had a lot of ideas. And what I did was inspired by a series that I'm knees deep in, which is Stormlight Archive, for anyone who's read, which is I was going to steal the face of her most beloved, the memories and idea and any vision of her. Hearing the name, it's static. Looking at her face, it's static. Presumably that being Delness. But in the event that when the two of them can't talk, in the event that the 2 of them couldn't talk anymore and Delness was like, I'm out of here, that would have changed to whoever was the most dear to Mira at any point for the rest of her life. That seemed to me like taking away the person or a person who's that important to Mira, who I think is a person who really is better for her bonds and like relationships. I think that would have been very hurtful to her.
All these are brutal. I can understand why you wanted to have the game go because those would be very dramatic things to do. I also I think putting myself in a player's shoes, if I heard like, oh, here's what you had at risk.
Yeah.
It was you either become an old lady, you lose this feat, or you don't get to see the one you love anymore, or you're blinded.
You don't get to
it.
see.
You're done.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, all of those are really bad.
A damn shame.
I would hate to see old lady turn up, unlucky Integrity, single Mira, and blind Boo go up against Horst. I think that being like on their last legs might actually be preferable to the alternative.
Yeah, I'm sure that I really hope for Integrity's sake that Lucky comes in and saves her. I feel like Integrity is at a precarious point. Just because Horst is right on her tail, Integrity has broken into her like inner chambers, knocked over this wonderful ever full chalice, this ever important chalice.
It's ever full even when it's knocked over?
Yeah, it keeps spilling out coins after coins after
rough.
coins.
It might be a bad situation.
Yeah.
No, probably fine though.
God, I hope so.
Well, let's not delay any further. How about we go find out by listening to the next episode in your little queue of podcast listeners, because I'm not talking to people who are listening as it comes out. That's right, I'm talking to you, someone who's binge listening. What, you didn't think I knew you were doing it? You didn't think I knew that you were going and listening to episodes one right after the other? That's right, I'm doing it. Jesus Christ, what the fuck was that bit?
No, I think that's great. I don't think we should even do the outro.
Yeah,
I think that should just be it.
God, yeah, don't go looking for us on Instagram at Trials and Trebs. would you give us money at patreon.com/trials and trebs? Would you even buy our merch at trebmerch.com? Like, no, after listening to that,
After that?
probably not. Pretty rough stuff as far as, outros go, which makes sense. I've never done a good outro.
Same.
It's my greatest failure.
Yeah.
Every night when I close my eyes, I look at my podcast fellows and they say, Nathan, why have you not done a good outro for us? And I say, Horst, I know it's you. I don't know, Luke. What am I missing for the outro here?
There's a Discord. You're probably
Oh.
already on it, though.
Hell yeah, hop on there. It's in the podcast description.
And, if you want to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, your podcatcher of choice, 5 stars, we would love it. It helps
Leave
other
it.
people find the show. Please leave that thing down there. Please
Leave
thanks.
that thing down there.
Other than that, that's it.
That's it, gang. Sayonara.